Matt was put out a call saying, is there anybody out there who's had any real life experience with porting apps and so forth from Xamarin? Now, a while back we demoed at Windows Phone User Group our first XNA games, and we've been sticking with that all the way through till XNA was deprecated. And so we've started moving into Monogame and Xamarin as an alternative. So tonight we're going to attempt to port a little hack together game or prototype game from XNA to Android and iOS using Monogame and Xamarin. So first of all, a little bit of background here. So, like I say, Xamarin and Monogame to replace the deprecated XNA. Now, that was certainly a bit of a shock when Windows Phone 8 was announced. We were saying, hang on, it's either going to be JavaScript or C++. Well, we don't think we can do what we want to do with JavaScript, and we know that we can't invest the time with C++, and then we spent a year or so rewriting all our libraries, and we probably could have learned C++ anyway, but at that point it's...
or you could have gone and spent a lot of money and learned Unity and spent your life dragging and dropping and not actually doing any coding.
Yeah, very true. So, which I'll come to in a moment. So anyway, we started off with some of our Windows Phone games. So we've got 10 titles out on the Windows Phone at the moment. 6 of those are our arcade collection, which is sort of like retro style, old tributes to the 80s arcade games that we grew up with. So we started off porting those for Android on a free trial. Ported the 5 games to Android in 2 weeks of spare time, and a lot of that was actually getting Monogame set up and making sure the dev environment worked and figuring out just how bad the Android emulator is. I mean, Mike wasn't kidding when he said it's dog slow. I really hope that this works here. The slow bit from the Android side is probably going to be us firing up in the emulator. So then we started getting things out on Google Play just to see how things worked, and decided we were going to go for the iPhone version. So one weekend, October last year, I sat down to rebuild our website. Paul started doing the iPhone conversions, and we ported 5 games to iOS. Well, Paul ported 5 games to iOS in 48 hours. So, Xamarin, Monogame, yes, it is that quick, at least from an XNA perspective. So, a little bit about Monogame. Plenty about Xamarin. So, for those who build games here, I don't know who else is in there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got a few tinkerers here. Great, great. Look, let us know what you've got out there on the stores. So it's an open source implementation of XNA 4. So maintained by a team of volunteers, effectively. Started off as just the 2D components, and then as Windows Phone 8 came on board, I think it was Tom Spillman and his team picked it up, started adding the 3D components, and so now it's it's pretty much everything that XNA used to offer us. So it's cross-platform, and not just Android, Windows Phone 8, and an iPhone, but you also cover Windows 8. It covers Linux,
PS Vita,
PS4. I know there's negotiations for that. So there's a range of platforms that you can work to. So for Android and iOS, which is our area of concern, sits on top of Xamarin. So obviously you need the Xamarin licenses to be able to work with it. But then the alternative. At the moment, the big alternative seems to be Unity. I don't know what the price points are for that now. But when we first kicked off, it was actually Xamarin actually came out slightly cheaper to give us the flexibility we wanted. So the website for Monogame is www.monogame.net. So if you want to have a look, that's where to go. You can come and get that off us at the end. But why? Good question. So, first of all, direct reuse of existing code and skills. So, like I said, Unity seems to be the thing that's being pushed at the moment, which is basically what, drag drop script, you said?
Yeah, it's like sort of the Visual Basic. You draw the interface in a GUI and then write a bit of code behind it to link that bit to that bit. It's not sort of traditional game coding as certainly as we grew up with it. And part of the challenge for us is building the engine, not just building the game. So Unity sort of left us a bit cold, I think it'd be fair to say.
Plus, you don't have so much access to the lower level APIs. You're working, as I think, again, as Mike said, you're working with their APIs, not the API. So you can't go away and do some of the stuff that you want to do. And I think that our latest projects, the cross-platform racing element that we're looking to build in, which I think I was talked about last time I did a demo of Windows Phone Users Group. I don't know who was there for that, for the Bopscotch demo. But the idea of being able to play multiplayer across different phone platforms is certainly something that I couldn't see being implemented in anything other than Monogame and Xamarin. So there's the direct reuse of existing code and skills. Anybody who's used XNA can just use Monogame. So linking in projects. So you're literally talking about one code base here. Now, I didn't know about the shared projects that Xamarin 3 offered before tonight, but, and you'll see this as we do the ports, you can literally say, I want to link this file into my Xamarin Studio project. And it's not a copy, it is a direct link. So if I roll an Android port, and then I want to change a feature in Windows Phone, that will automatically roll over to the Android version. Mac, well, obviously iOS you have to develop on a Mac. So the way to get around that is to build your, and this is a little bit of a hack, put your project into onto a Dropbox folder. Link it to, build it in Visual Studio on PC for Windows Phone and for Android. Then your Mac, you just point your Xamarin Studio at the same Dropbox folder, same links, and then you should get the different code, the different tweaks and changes at all three platforms for free. So you are literally maintaining one code base. And also with game code, a lot of the time you're writing your own UI, so it literally is 99.9% of the code is reused. So we then hit a point where Microsoft started paying attention to Monogame. Skulls of the Shogun, for example. And I know there's another few examples out there where Microsoft have just jumped in and said, yeah, actually Monogame is a good idea. Get out there, and they've started acknowledging it. And then obviously Xamarin has started bubbling up more and more recently. So it seems to be something that's time is coming, if not here. So the question is, how did it work? Stop. Demo time. So here we go. Angry androids, flappy androids, flappy asteroids, whatever you want to call it. Very simple little thing. So all it does, there's my little spaceship, it follows around, thrusting towards the point of touch. Asteroids fly, I keep saying androids. Asteroids flying across the screen, oh, dead, dead. So 3 hours just mucking around to make that last night, just to demonstrate the point. So, I'm going to go over here and grab my cheat sheet that I blatantly forgot to pick up earlier. Knew I'd forget something. Hopefully that's my glitch for this demo.
That's Paul.
Well, you make your own luck. Let's see. So, Xamarin Studio. This is a bit different to the version that Mike demoed because I have a notoriously bad reputation when it comes to installing and setting up any kind of development environment. And I don't want to upset the apple cart with a working one by trying to install something new over the top until I finish my current big project. So, I'm going to create a new, let's go down here. So, I'm going to create a new Android application. So, just going to pop it in. Pop it somewhere safe. So that's basically just creating the template and give it a very basic template app. So the next thing we want to do is add in the extra projects that we need for Monogame. So existing project, first of all, we need the Lidgren libraries, which are key components to Monogame. So we add the Lidgren library and Monogame itself. Monogame framework. And there it is at the bottom there. And we just want to add those references in. So edit, and also we need the open toolkit. So add that in, add Lidgren and Monogame. So that's ready to go. So now Game has our assets and content. So we want to create a place for that to live. So in the assets folder here, we want to add a new folder, which is content, and we want to now add the assets from the XNA project. So we can add an existing folder. So if I just go to so we can basically opt to add every single file within that folder, and it will say, do I want to copy and to link? I want to link because that means that any changes I make to the imagery, anything like that, will automatically get reflected across both projects. Now, one little thing that we do have, you'll see here we have this sprite font file. Now, that's normally compiled by XNA for us. Now, Monogame are working on a content processor at the moment, but that's still a work in progress. So this sprite font isn't compatible, so we want to remove that and instead replace it with the compiled version from the Windows Phone.
You're going to have to add the fonts folder back.
Yeah, well, if we add that there, that should add the folder and the XNB. So that is the compiled XNA file, which is, like I say, something that's being worked on at the moment. So, and this is the really annoying, boring bit now. We have to set the build properties for each of these. Hence why I hacked this together with only a few files last night, because otherwise it would have taken forever to do this. So we just want to say we want to output each of these to the output directory. So normally what I do when I'm doing this is hack the CS.proj file directly, so I can just do a bulk replace of all this once I've imported the entire lot into my Android project. So that, I think, let's just have a quick look, make sure I've got them all. Yep, okay, good. So we now want to add start adding the actual code to the project. So in here, add existing folder again. So we go back to now everything that the bulk of it is in this game objects folder. So if I open that, you'll see there are my classes that make up the vast majority of my game. And so I just OK there, again, link to those, and those go into place. And then the last couple of files, when you create an XNA project, it will automatically define this game1 file, which is your basic starter. I also have a utility class, which I forgot to add last night when I was building this and doing this as a dry run, and spent half an hour wondering what the hell had gone wrong. So again, we want to add those, link to them. So those should all be in place now. So that should be all the files we need. And then all we need to do is make this activity deal with the files that we've just brought across from XNA. So I'm going to be lazy here and go to my original version of this from last night. So you can see here that activity looks slightly different. So if I just go back to the first one, we're using the XNA namespace, that XNA framework namespace that Monogame provides here, and we've also declared this as an Android game activity. It's then simply a matter of creating a layout, telling the game activity that again Monogame gives you, that the activity for the game is this current activity. Creating the game and adding the game window to the layout, setting the content view and running. So hopefully, if I bring this lot into play, this is the moment of truth. Copy that across. So, that is all in place. The last thing we want to do is consider which Android versions we want to use, because there's a lot of different versions out there. So if we go to the project itself and go to the options, you'll see we have in here, I think it's wrong project. There we go. So under Android application, we can say what versions of the framework we're targeting. So minimum version, let's play it nice and safe, give it as much of an audience as possible. Let's go with Froyo at API 7, and let's give it a top whack version of 15, just to, because I know I haven't got any the other compile options on this machine. So now, moment of truth. So build all. It's building, it's building, it's building, and this is the point where you might want to go to the loo or go and draw your pension or something like that, because this is where we're trying to actually get the Android emulator to do its thing. So
anyone doing any serious game development,
get a device.
Get a physical device. Plug it in.
Get several actually, because one thing that we have found is that there are still amounts of variation between the different devices, and sometimes you have to, what you think works just perfectly ends up not working. So let's see what we get. So pick the emulator. So it's thinking. Come on. So yeah, as was mentioned earlier, this emulator is horribly slow. The best way of going about it is to divide it. There are other emulators out there as well. Most of the better ones you do actually end up paying a price for. We've just gone straight to device where possible. So it's very easy to get hold of an Android device these days. So, how's it going?
I can't
It's not moving. So, sorry about this, folks. It's claiming it's deploying. So,
let's do a couple of slides while we wait for it to
yeah, let's so I'll tell you what, let's, whilst we're waiting for this to happen, we kind of anticipate this possibility involved. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Paul here, who's going to have a look at the iOS port and how that differs. So I'm just going to unplug.
So iOS, it's a very similar process, but there are one or two other little odds and ends you need to be aware of. That's the away stuff. Can I get a better screen resolution up there than that? That is the question. Let's give it a go. Drum roll. See a little bit more of what I'm doing. Good. Right, similar process. Let's close this solution. So, new solution. I'm going to do a universal app which will deploy both to iPad and iPhone. Empty project. What are we calling this? Xamarin?
Whatever you like, you just change the namespace over as you need to.
Yeah, I'm lazy. I'm just going to try, because if I get the name right, it does the right. Similar process, so we go off and find all of our content and add it in. I'm going to do the references first. I'm also going to cheat slightly because I've got the DLLs built for iOS, so I'm just going to use those straight off rather than put the projects in. It doesn't actually matter. Having the projects themselves in can help with debugging and stepping through things, but just two things less to link if I do it that way around. So, add existing folder. Where did I put it on here? Here it is. So let's put in all of those source files that Ben showed you I'm putting in before. Yes, I'll have all of them, please. Link so that we share the code. Let's add all those base classes in as well. Game one, and I'll have utility, please. Content. Content folder. Put it in.
So on the Mac, slightly different there. It's not residing within the assets folder. It has a folder of its own, but the principle's the same.
Is it coming to life yet?
No.
So we add in all of our assets.
It builds. Well, it's just the emulator.
Again, the sprite font file is no use to us here. We have to have a special build of the XMB to put into place, but never mind. The sprite fonts for iOS you actually have to build on the PC, which is a bit weird. Again, this is something that the clever people at Monogame are working on, but here's one I prepared earlier. Again, as Ben did, we have to make sure that they're all using the right build type, and because I have a slightly more up-to-date version of Xamarin than Ben, I can multi-select and do them all at once. What have I forgotten? What I haven't done is put the game into the game, which I can do like that. And I'm bound to have forgotten something, but I'm going to press the button anyway. Bang! What did I forget? What did I forget?
Have you set your build properties on everything?
I think I forgot that because I hacked that earlier when I was cheating on my way into in this morning. There we go. What was that? 5 minutes? Less than 5 minutes?
Something like that.
It's far from perfect. The fonts don't work quite well, but also you'll notice my star map doesn't quite reach the edge of the screen. It's one of the things I think we'll come on to talk through in the points.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just switch back over to the slideshow because this thing's being really horrific. I don't know. Like I say, I'm still waiting on that Android emulator. So what I'll do, just to prove I'm not cheating, I've got an Android device here which is developer enabled. So afterwards, if this refuses to play ball and deploy and get up on the big screen for us, then I'll show this running actually on a device so you can see that I wasn't actually cheating when I said that we're doing this. So surely there's a catch. Well, as Paul just pointed out, screen resolutions and aspect ratios. And this, as Mike pointed out, is a big, big gotcha for Android. So there's a number of ways where you can attack it. You can look at the physical dimensions of the screen, and you can design accordingly to scale in real time. So being a bit clever with 2D, which is which you can use to make a back buffer. And once you've rendered everything to that, you can then scale it down and display it on screen. So it's up to you how you want to handle that, whether you want to pillar box it, to letterbox it, or whether you want to stretch your display. There's a number of ways of attacking that. Physical buttons on devices. I think this is one close to your heart, the arcade collection.
As we discovered when we were porting the arcade collection, well, we kind of knew beforehand, but it brought it home to us. There's no back button on the iPhone. If you're sort of counting on the back button for pause, which is common in games, or for navigating backwards.
In fact, a Windows phone game will fail in the marketplace if back doesn't match to pause. So.
Yeah, what do? You can't press the home button, that tombstones you. So you have to come up with sort of on-screen soft buttons or some other approach like that. But it's something you've got to think about. If you haven't got anywhere on your screen to put the button because all of the touch zones are already defined, it can involve going back and doing a lot of code refactoring and rewriting, and perhaps even redesigning several of the screens.